recording. Okay, so let's get started. So we're gonna start with the background music. So I have my project here, and here's my game. And I have these audio files. So the first thing that we gotta do is make sure that we import the audio files correctly. Some of this stuff I might not want in my project, like the original files, but I'm not gonna worry about that too much right now. I have a few different file types. I have OGG, WAV, and MP3. And I think all of those will work fine in Godot. I think it prefers WAV and OGG, but I think MP3 should be fine as well. So the first thing we want to do is just import the sounds and make sure they're set up correctly. I'm going to go back to my game and open up project.godot and choose the Godot engine. Okay, and so if I click on my audio folder and open that up in the file system, if I click on a file and then if I go to the import tab in the in this top left panel here, you'll notice that there are different settings for different file types. So if I click on the OGG, you can see there's a loop setting and a loop offset. And if I click on the wave, there's some more different options here. And then if I click on this MP3 file, then we just have the loop and loop offset. So based on the file, Godot makes a couple of assumptions about what you're doing with these specific files. So with a WAV file, these are higher quality files that usually if we're using them in a game, they're gonna be short. And so there's a couple things that you can do here. You can force them to be 8-bit, which for our WAV files, you wouldn't really notice the difference probably because we generated them using that SFXer program. But we don't really have to worry about this because our files are not particularly large. This would kind of compress the file a little bit to make it play faster on the computer. But we don't really need to change anything else here. There is a loop option, but we don't need that because these are just sound effects. We don't want them to loop. So I don't really need to do anything with that. For our OGG files, for example, our Apple Byte file, this is actually a sound effect. And so I don't want this to loop. And so I'm going to turn loop off and then click re-import. And actually, I want to use my Apple Byte edit that I edited in Audacity. So I'm going to re-import that one as well. So that you might have to change if you have an OGG file that is a sound effect. So then I have this MP3 file for my two different background tracks. And these are set to loop. So Godot is kind of making this assumption that if you have an MP3 file, it's probably for background music, and you probably want it to loop by default so that the music doesn't just like stop when the song is over. So I'm going to leave that loop setting on so I don't have to change anything here. And then I'm going to look at this other music that I downloaded, and that also is set to loop on. That's what I want. So that's all fine. So I don't have to change those at all. So now I'm ready to add my sounds into my game. And so I'm going to add the background music first. I'm going to start with my start menu, and then I'll add it to my first level as well. So I'm going to go to scenes and find my menu scene and just open that. And so for this one, I just want to play the background music when the scene opens. So I don't actually need any code to tell Godot when to play the music. So adding the music here is really easy. I'm just going to click on my main node, the menu node, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to create a new child node. And for sound, I want an audio stream player. And you can use the default audio stream player. That's going to be fine, but you could also use the audio stream player 2D. This you can position in space, so you can pan it to the right or the left if you want to. Either one of these will be fine for either your background music or your sound effects. You probably won't. I probably won't really play with the positionality of these, but you could if you wanted to try that. So I'm just going to go with the audio player 2D and click create. And then we don't actually have to change the name of this because we don't need to reference it in the code. But since it'll look better, I want to change the name of this to background music so that I know what it is. And so now I've got this background music, and I can go over to my inspector tab, and the stream is where I actually put in the file. So I can click empty, click load, go to audio, and I'm gonna go with the, going to list view here. I'm gonna go with the retro game music pack for my menu. So I'll click open. And then there's a few options here. I can change the volume. So 0 is the loudest volume. It's a little confusing, but when you're talking about volume in decibels, 0 is kind of like actually what we're sort of targeting as like normal volume. And you can increase that, but that's gonna probably be distorted and sound bad. What I actually wanna do, since this is background music, is turn the volume down. So I'd probably do something like -24, and I'll, try that out, see how it sounds. So then I have the pitch scale. So you can actually pitch the music up or down if you want to. And then here's where we need to also set it. So we want it to be playing, and we also want it to play as soon as the scene starts. So I'm gonna turn on autoplay. Everything else we can kind of ignore. There's some other settings here, like the area mask you can use to play different sounds in different parts. But we're gonna ignore that for now. Okay, so I'm gonna save this. And that's pretty much it. When I play this scene, we should hear the music. I don't know if you guys are gonna hear it. You can let me know, but I think you probably won't. I'm assuming you guys didn't hear that, right?
No, we didn't hear it.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Okay. Actually, okay, I just realized I don't want to turn playing on yet. I want to turn that off for now. Okay. So it's pretty quiet. I'm going to turn up the volume a little bit to -12. And then I'm going to see if I can instead of sharing my whole screen, I'm just going to share. I'm going to play the scene. It's probably not really worth it, but let's play the scene. And then I'm going to play my game and screen that. You guys hear it now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so that's the sound. So that's basically all you have to do to add background music to any scene. And since it's set to loop, when it reaches the end, it's gonna loop over. I'm gonna stop scene. That's probably gonna make this stream go away. So I'll go back to my screen. Okay. Okay, so that is all set up. So now let's add some background music to level 1. And so you can add multiple tracks in different levels. You could also set it up if you want to have different songs play at different times in the level. You can set that up in your code. But I'm just going to have one track that kind of repeats. So I'm going to go to level 1, and I'm just going to add some background music in here. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to click on the main node and right click and add a child node. And I'll use an audio stream player 2D. And I'll rename this audio stream player background music. And you could put it somewhere. If you want to have more tracks, you might create like another node to put all of the sounds in, but I don't think I'm going to put any other sound in here, at least not right now. So I'm just going to leave that on its own. And then I'm going to click on the stream and go to load and go to audio. Go to the list view. So for this one, I'm going to use the Free Music Archive MP3 that I downloaded. Click open. And I'm going to turn the volume down on this one as well. Try -12 again. I don't want the background music to be louder than my sound effects. And then I'm going to turn on autoplay. Okay, so now I will play the game. And let's stream game window. Okay, so you should hear that now. So yeah, that's what the background music sounds like. And that's it. That's all. That's really all you need to do to add in the background music. So let me stop that. So now let's start with our menu and add in some UI. This is pretty easy. It's pretty simple from a code point of view, but you just have to know where the sound is supposed to play and then attach that to the different events in our code. So I'm gonna click on the menu tab and go back here. I'm gonna add a few more sound files. So I'm gonna right click and add a child node, do another audio stream player. And I need 2 of these, so I'm just gonna click, hit Command D to duplicate. And we'll do button press and button hover. And so now I can add in my UI files, my UI sounds here. So for the button press, I'm gonna go to stream and go to load and go to audio. And let's go to the list view, and I have UI click. Okay, so that's what the button press one is. So I'll click open, and then I don't want to turn on autoplay. I'm gonna leave the volume at 0. I might want to turn it down if it's too loud, but I think it should be fine. And okay, I think that's all good. So then I'm gonna go to button hover, click on the stream and click load, go to audio again, and go to UI hover and click open. And so now I just have to put these sounds in my code when these events occur. And so if I click on my start button and I go to the node section, you can see the pressed event. And then there's also a, where is it? Mouse entered event. So that's when we hover over the button. So that one we can connect to our button hover. And then the other one, we already have a function here for when we press the button. So we just have to add our code in there. So I'm gonna start by double clicking on the signal that's already set up there, which we did in the previous UI lab. So I'll double click on that. And that takes me to my menu script. I'm gonna close the input and I'm gonna go to file, close other tabs. So we just have this menu here. So on start pressed. So this is just like referencing other things in our scene. We're gonna use the $sign and get our button press sound. So we'll just say button press. And then this is really simple. I'm just gonna say play. So we just wanna play the sound and we only wanna play it once. So we just say play here. And that will play the sound for us. And you can see our other buttons here. So I can just go ahead and add these in. So on quit pressed, I guess if I click on the quit button, it's just gonna quit. So we can't really play a sound first, so I'll skip that one. But for the instructions, I'm just gonna copy and paste that button press.play in there. So then I wanna add in my, mouse entered, which is still in my node tree here. So I'm just gonna double click this, connect this to my menu. And so this isn't gonna do anything except play a sound. So I'm just gonna remove this and I'm gonna say button hover dot play. And so now this one on mouse entered, basically, I want to reuse this. So instead of creating another function for each one of my buttons just to play the button hover buttons, since nothing else happens when I hover over this, what I'm going to do instead is just turn this function into a generic function. So I'm just going to delete the start here and then just copy this. You can see the signal disappeared. So this is something that you might need to do if you want to use one function for multiple signals. So I'm just going to say on mouse entered and copy this, and I'll go back to my start button and I'm going to remove this signal that I created. I'm going to disconnect it and then I'm going to double click, and here's my connect a signal to a method window. I don't change anything, like I'm still connecting it to the menu, still doing mouse entered, but the receiver method is different. I'm just going to paste in, or you could type in on mouse entered, and then I'm going to click connect. So now we can see the green signal here. We're connecting this button, and now I can connect all of my buttons to this same function because they are all just going to have that same basic sound. So I'll go to instructions and do the same thing, just double click mouse entered. See, the receiver method that gets generated is on instructions mouse entered. But what I want is just on mouse entered. So I'll click connect there. So this goes to the same function. I can reuse that code on each one of my buttons. So then I'll go to quit and double click mouse entered and paste this in here and connect. And so now all those guys are connected. I think that's everything I needed to do. So I'm gonna start my menu scene. And then I'll stream my game window for you guys to hear. So now you'll be able to hear as I move between the different buttons. So we have that little sound effect that goes when we hover. And then if I click instructions, we'll hear the mouse click sound effect. And if I play start, well, actually it's gonna change scene, so we won't hear that, but that's okay. So yeah, if I hit the start button, we actually probably shouldn't have added the sound in there. We could like wait a second for the sound to play before we start the scene. That's probably what I should do. Or I could play, yeah, there's probably a better way to handle that, but that's the basic idea. Okay, so the last thing that we have to do, whoops, is add in our gameplay sound effects. And so we'll just do a couple of those. I'll just do some examples of the player sound effects and the reward and enemy sound effects. If you look in, oh, am I streaming? Okay, I gotta stream my screen again. Okay, so if you look at the labs for the gameplay sound effects, you can see there's code in a lot of the scripts that I wrote that are in the assets folder. Will you see something that's like commented out that says like jump sound.play or something like that? And so you can kind of find those in the asset folder where those basic sound effects go, because it's really pretty simple. But if you don't have the sound in there, it's going to throw an error. So they're usually commented out like this. And so a lot of it is just removing the comments, but I'll show you guys how to actually add them in from scratch. So let's go back to Godot. And I'm gonna go to level 1 and look at my level here. So I have my player, I have some obstacles, and I have some lives, but what I wanna do is add these to the original scenes, not into my main scene, because each one of these objects has different sounds associated with it. So I'll click on the player and then click on the scene button to open the scene instance. And now I'm just gonna add in a sound for the player here. So I have a few different sounds, the jump sound. What else do I have? I have the getting hit sound. I have the death sound. I have an attack sound, but I haven't added the attack yet, so I'll skip that one for now. So let's add those in. So I'm gonna click on the player and right click and add child node. And I'll add an audio stream player and click create. And I need a few of these, so I'm just gonna hit Command D to duplicate them. And so I have a jump sound. I have a death sound. I have a hit sound. Do I have anything else? I think that's everything. So now we just have to find the places in the code where these various things happen. So I'm gonna click on the script for my player and we can read through here. So for my player controller, as I'm scrolling down, I just wanna look for where a jump actually happens. So right here, if input is action just pressed, jump, and can jump, and something else is not jumping. Here's where our jump actually happens. And so besides, applying our jump force and setting is jumping to true and setting up our animated sprite to start at the beginning, now I can use the $sign and grab the jump sound and just hit play. So jump sound.play. So it's really pretty simple. You just have to find where this event happens and add it in there. So let's add the other sounds and then we will preview this. So the next sound is the death sound. So let's go back to our script. And so we want to figure out where does the player die. So let's take a look. Let's collapse these functions and look for our dies function. There we go, dies. And so here we can just add in another line of code. Just making some spaces to make this easier to see. And so again, I just use the $sign and grab the death sound. And so it doesn't have to be called death sound. It just has to match what you have in your scene hierarchy over here. And so we just want to say death sound.play. And then our last one is the hit sound. So this is anytime our player runs into an enemy. So I have another function, enemy collision here. You can open that up and just add in another line of code. So again, it's just $sign hit sound.play. And so you can see there's some things where we don't have sounds, like you might want to have a sound for when your player starts talking or stops talking. Any of these other functions where other things are happening, if you want to associate a sound with them, you can just create a sound in your scene hierarchy, add your sound, and then add in your code. So I don't think I actually added the sound, so let's do that now. So let's go to the jump sound, go to the inspector, just have to go to the stream, click empty, go to load, go to audio, and let's find our player jump. Oh, we also have the player land sound, so let's add that in a second. So click open. And I don't think I need to change anything here. I think all of this stuff is fine, so I'm going to leave all the parameters alone. So let's add the death sound. I'm just going to click on the stream, go to load, go to audio, and go to death. Next, I have the hit sound. Just going to go to stream, empty, load, audio, and player hit. And then we have one more sound, which is when the player hits the ground after they jump. So let me duplicate the jump sound and then call this land sound. And let's reset the stream and load in the player lands. Okay, so let's go to our script and look for when the player lands. So this one is a little bit trickier, but we can see where does the player land? If is on floor or is on wall is jumping false. So that's when the player lands, because that's when we hit the floor or hit the wall. But we only want to play this if we are jumping. We don't want to play it whenever we're on a floor or a wall. So I need to make this condition a little bit more complicated. So actually, let's add a condition before this. So let's say if not, or let's say if is jumping. I think this will be the easiest way. So if is jumping, if we already started jumping, if is jumping will be true. And then if we hit a floor or a wall, then we'll stop jumping. Is jumping will be false, and we'll play our land sound. So I'll say land sound dot play. I think that'll do it. Let's test it and see if that works. So those were my player sounds. I'm gonna start my scene. Oh, that's the player scene. I need to start my level. And I'm gonna stream the game window. Okay, so now if I jump, you hear the jump sound. And you can hear the landing sound, but it's pretty quiet. So I need to turn down the game music. So I'm gonna turn the game music way down. So I'm gonna click on background music. I'm gonna do -24 for the music volume. Whoops, let me play the game again. And I'll stream game window. Okay, so now there's a jump. And you can hear that landing sound. So that's pretty good. Let's jump over here And let's see if we get hit. Okay, so that's the hit sound. Oh, but I killed the snake. I need to figure out why that's happening. I think the colliders are too close together. Okay, but we got our hit sound and our dying sound. We got our game over. These buttons don't work, so we have to add the sounds into the game over scene, but I'm not going to do that right now. It's the same thing as the menu scene. So anyway, that's the player sounds. So we just have a couple more sounds to add: our obstacle sounds and our reward sounds. Any questions at the moment? Sorry, I'm going kind of straight through all this stuff, but any questions right now? Okay, if there are any questions, feel free to interrupt me at any point. Let's add in the rest of our sounds. So let's go to our obstacles, and let's go to our obstacle moving. Our obstacle static doesn't really need a sound. You could add a sound on there, but you hear the sound of the player getting hit if I run into the static obstacle. So I'm going to ignore adding sounds to that. I'm going to go to the obstacle moving, and I'm going to click on the scene button. And so we can add a sound in here. So the obstacle, when the obstacle attacks, we can play a sound. And then when the obstacle dies, we can play a sound. There could be more sounds, but I think that should be good. So, excuse me, I'm going to right click and add a child node. I'm going to add my audio stream player, and we'll call this death sound. And let's duplicate that and make attack sound. So let's add our sounds. So I'm going to go click on the sound, go to stream, go to load, audio, and let's see, where did I have my, okay, enemy death. Click open, and then attack, go to load, audio. I called this enemy hit. Oh, you know what? Actually, I don't want an attack sound because the player has a hit sound for when they get hit. So you could have both, but what this actually is when the enemy just gets hit. Because I guess that's the same thing as when the enemy dies, but I guess you could have an enemy with multiple lives. I'm not really sure what I was intending to do there, but let's leave it as an attack. It's okay if the sound file and the name of the sound don't match. That doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to leave it as an attack. So now we just have to connect these to our code. So I'm going to click on the script for my obstacle moving, and we just have to find where the enemy dies. So that's down here. Where is it? On hit body entered. So that calls the hit function. This is when it's hit by a player or a projectile. And so that's when it dies. So my enemy doesn't have like multiple lives. So I'm just going to go ahead and play the death sound here. We'll say death sound.play. Oh, and I actually already had this here. I guess oh yeah, because I just put the code in here because I wanted to save time. But yeah, you can see what that would look like from the assets code. I had called this die sound, but it basically looks the same. You could just remove this comment and then update to make sure that this code matches the name of the sound here. But I've already done that, so let's take that out. And then let's see. Here's the attack sound. So area that harms kills the player. You can see I already had a sound here, which I did call hit sound. I need to get my naming conventions straight, but we can just remove this comment and we'll change this to attack sound, which makes sense because we are in this attack area. So that's better. Okay, so that's our obstacle moving. Let's add the reward and then we'll listen to it all at the same time. I'm going to go back to my level, close up these obstacles, go to my item. Here's my item. I'm going to click on the item scene. This is my apple. So here's where I'm going to add in my apple bite sound effect that I got. So I'm going to add another audio stream player. call this collected sound, and go to the stream, load in the audio. This gets pretty repetitive, but almost done. I'm gonna take my Applebyte edit.ogg and click open. And so now again, we just have to go into the script and find where the item gets collected. So I'm gonna click on the script. And so on item body entered, here's where we collect the item. So let's play our sound. So we have collected sound.play. So that's pretty simple. We also have the heart, the life. So let's add a sound there. So I'll go back to level 1, close up my items, go to my lifes, and open this one. So again, really repetitive. I'm just kind of doing the same thing over and over again, but it's, you know, basically the same process. So I'm going to add a child node, add my audio stream player, call this collected sound, and go to the stream, go to empty, click load, go to audio, and let's see, where do I have my item collect? So I'm going to use that, even though it's called item, I'm using this one for my life because my Apple item has its own sound. I'll click open for that. And now I just have to connect it to the script. So I click on the script, and this is actually the same script. So this is the same script for my item and my life. And so I don't actually have to change the code here, but notice that the collected sound, it still has to match what you have in this scene. So that's why I wanted to call these things the same thing. So I'm reusing the script here, the item manager, so I don't have to actually add any more code. All right, I think that's everything. Let's go back to level 1. I'm gonna play this scene, and let me stream the game window. Okay, and so we already have our player sound effects. Let's see if we get our item sound effects. There's our apple. Okay, let's see if I get attacked by the snake. Okay, and the snake dies. I need to fix the snake collider, but that's fine. So then if we kill the snake, we get the dead snake sound. Doesn't really sound like a dead snake, so I should probably fix that, but at least there's a sound there. Oops. Oh, I got an error. Button press. Oh, you know what? My game over, I need to add in my sounds because I'm going to get this error since it's using the same script as my menu. So let me fix that real quick. It's a good thing to do anyway. So let's go back to my screen and let's stop my game. Okay, so last thing that we have to do, let's go to our game over scene. So this uses the same menu script as the start menu. So I was getting that error because it's looking to play this button press, but I don't actually have a button here. But there's an easy way to fix that. So remember, I can use merge from scene. So I don't even have to like add in new audio players or do anything. I can just go to my game over node, right click and go merge from scene, go to my scenes and find my, where is it? My menu scene, and click open. And there's my 2 buttons down here. I don't want the background music because it's gonna play over my main game window, since the game over scene is actually inside the level 1 scene. So I don't want to bring the background music over here. That would be too chaotic. But I just want to bring in my 2 button presses. So I'm just going to click on that and then hold command and, or sorry, control and click on the other one. So I have both. And I'll click OK. And that'll fix that issue. So go back to level 1. And I should be able to do everything now. This should be the last thing. Let me stream my game window again. Pretty janky setup, but that's okay. So okay, we just have to see that our life works. That's the only one we haven't heard yet. Okay, so all the sounds work. Let's see if I die. Oh, my buttons don't work. Okay, so maybe I missed something. Oh, I didn't connect the signals. Oh, man. Whoops. Okay. Oh, but that actually didn't give me an error. All right. Anyway, notice that this last one I actually in a different scene, but the sounds are still playing because I added the sounds to the individual components. So now any scene that they're in is going to be updated with those sounds. Okay, so I think that's everything. I'm going to stop recording.